Short prayer. Beloved God, help us all to love you more and more, and more, and still yet more, till we become worthy of union with you. And help us all to hold fast to Avtar Meher Baba's Daman right until the very end. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai, Avtar Meher Baba ki jai, Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. Thank you, Baba, for everything. Love you, Baba, forever. Jai Meher Baba. So we're on page 70, and I thought we'll start reading from the top to clear some confusions of what we read earlier. So here goes. Though sex consciousness clasps its opposite with an outgoing fervor, it augments, increases duality instead of reducing it, sublating it. And the soul continues to be arrested within the spell of the felt other. The invincible other is a constant companion of sex-driven consciousness and is felt as the other. So now our consciousness is entrapped by the felt other, the other that we feel sexually, experientially. In deepest fulfillment, the sex-tinged opposition suddenly brings to the surface an equally deep frustration which is latent in itself. Equal to the satisfaction of the sexual experience is the frustration of the sexual experience that is latent in itself. Even in its most refined and directed form, it does not succeed in removing or reducing duality. In fact, despite appearances to the contrary, it is perhaps the most trenchant of the separatories which obtain in the confused psyche. It's the most stubborn of the factors that separate, which obtain in the confused psyche. At all psychic levels, sex consciousness creates the sex opposites, and their game of hide and seek, gain and loss, conquest and surrender, love and hate, frustration and fulfillment. All of these are just the game that sex consciousness likes to indulge in. At its best, it may pierce the assertive separatism of the soul, but it is never able to relieve it. It's never able to relieve the separatism of the soul. Its rare moments of evanescent vanishment of separatism are always followed by its accentuation in a more formidable form. What does he mean by evanescent vanishment of separatism? Because there are rare moments in the sexual act where you feel like one. Perhaps that's what it means. But these are always followed by an accentuation in a more formidable form of separation. What sublates, removes, reduces all forms of duality is untethered love, unconditional love. Untethered or unconditional love neither allows you to fall back into a subjective vacuity, nor does it throw you at the mercy of the felt other. It relieves you from the harassing interplay of the felt duality of I and you. Among the psychic separatories which create and sustain the multicolored duality of I and you, none is more formidable than that of the sex drive. The sex drive is the most powerful. The sex opposites, which are its creations, find themselves helplessly caught up in the game of illusion, being unable to separate from each other or really to unite with each other. Or really to unite with each other That being the goal, actually, of really uniting with each other. Anybody has any questions? Anything to ask, to share, any experiences? You'd like to read something again?
I think Kathy wants to say something.
Yes, Kathy?
Just in thinking this over since Wednesday, I think that Bob is putting sex in the same category as drugs. Whenever people in the West, at least, were using psychedelic drugs, they really felt oneness with all that is, and I thought they did, but then of course it disappeared, and so I mean that's why Bob has sent the message to the West that drugs were harmful physically, mentally, spiritually, but it seems to have the same
Effect?
Well, no, it seems to have the same promise, the promise of oneness.
But it's a very illusory promise of oneness. Like the drugs are an illusory promise of oneness.
Well, it's an illusory promise. It's also an experience that people take drugs, they feel that they are connected with nature and trees and everybody, and then they can't get back to that. And I think that it seems to be parallel to the description of the experience or promise of sex, where you think it's bringing oneness, but then it doesn't fulfill that.
Yes, because it's a promise, as good a promise as you can get from an illusion, which shows itself, tempts you, raises your desires, and then disappears. So it, in that sense, accentuates, it accentuates the duality rather than bridges it. So yes, I think you're right. It's a good analogy. Thank you.
Jimmy, I have a question actually.
Yeah.
So when Baba is talking about sex here, is it about promiscuity or is it also sex for procreation, within a married couple?
Well, I think it really is a question that has to be determined within the mind of the people concerned. If you're having sex to procreate and you don't get too attached to that sex, then I guess it should be all right. Because sex is the draw that all of us have that drives us towards procreation, and procreation is certainly important. But if we look at sex more as a lustful endeavor than a procreating endeavor, and you can lust for sex, you can lust for anything, you can lust for a mango, you can lust for food, you can lust for anything. Then you can't ever get out of the grips of lust, and that lust tries a stake of separation between you and divinity, between the two dualities. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Does anyone disagree with me here or want to add something to this? Okay. What sublates all forms of duality is untethered love, unconditioned love. What does he mean when he talks about sublating forms of duality? That means removing all forms of duality. When you remove all forms of duality, you have left non-duality. You have unity. So untethered love, unconditional love, neither allows you to fall back into your subjective vacuity, nor does it throw you at the mercy of the felt other, the desires for the other, the sentient experience of others. It relieves you from the harassing interplay of the felt duality of I and you. It relieves you from the harassing interplay of the felt duality of I and you. Among the psychic separatories which create and sustain the multicolored duality of I and you, none is more formidable than that of the sex drive. The sex opposites, which are its creations, find themselves helplessly caught up in the game of illusion. That's exactly what Kathy was talking about. Being unable to separate from each other, or really even to unite with each other in permanent harmony or unity. The multicolored interplay of souls and the variegated opposition of I and you persist until, through the grace of some enlightened one, the soul gets initiated into the untethered, unconditioned love, which is free from every tinge of duality. Unconditioned love, the nature, the characteristic of unconditioned love is that it is free from every tinge of duality. It is free from duality. Prior to this relieving fulfillment, every soul has to suffer the juxtaposition of I and you for countless lives. By the logic of the situation, every soul is driven to gather experiences of both sexes, sometimes incarnating in the male form and sometimes in the female form, sometimes tethered at one end of the trans-subjective opposition and sometimes at the other end. The soul dramatizes within its own psyche the interplay of opposites, the interplay of soul opposites, by whom it is confronted, until it gets established in the relief of non-differentiating and untethered, unconditional love. Such love alone can understand the I as well as you, as being its own illusory creations, rising from itself and disappearing within itself to find the ineffable fulfillment of the eternal beyond. Any questions? Anyone would like me to read something? Would anybody like to share some experiences? I'm not suggesting that you share sexual experiences, but any other experiences? Yes? No? Shall we continue then?
Jimmy, Kathy.
Kathy, continue, please.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I would be interested in hearing about anybody's experiences of unconditional love, even if it was for a brief time. I just like to. I was just sort of thinking back to see if I could remember what I would consider unconditional love in my own life. I mean, I'm not coming up with it right now. I'm sure that there are.
Can someone share? Can someone come forward and help us out and share even brief moments of unconditional love experiences? Anybody?
So I presume here you're saying love is different than sex, right?
Isn't it?
It is, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm sure it is for everyone.
Okay. So if it is unconditional love, obviously, your parents do give you unconditional love.
Does
Your
it?
pets, oh yeah, they
They don't expect anything of you?
the only thing they expect is you to do better. That's all.
That is
That
conditional.
well, that's inherent, every single parent. But even if you don't live up to their expectations, still they love you as much.
Okay. Is that a universal law or does it have exceptions?
Well, it's, I mean, my observation, it is just my observation that I can't say whether it's universal or not, but most, at least Indian parents seem to, do that, give unconditional love. I mean, obviously I can't speak for everybody. And I love pets, I love dogs. And no matter what I do, the dogs, they do love me back. And they're
Okay.
very protective too.
Kathy, what would you say about this?
Well, I think that is a somewhat of a good definition of unconditional love. No matter what they do, you still love them if they're, pets and dogs. But even certain people, no matter what they do, you search for a way to love them. Maybe it's not like instantaneous that you love them 100% of the time, but it might be that you would just ask Baba for help and how can I love this person and maybe get some good ideas.
Okay. Anyone else would like to say something? Throw some light on this. Is unconditional love emotional? Is it an emotion?
Yeah, I think so.
No. I think it comes under emotional part of the mind, but it is not a human emotion. We have to be away from ourselves. The love that is selfless is the divine love. We have no interest. There are no strings attached to that. So I was just thinking, I don't know how far this is connected, but if you just think about Meher Baba wholeheartedly, and then just have a feeling of love, that is the divine love.
So feeling of love would be an emotion.
Yes, it comes under emotional part of the mind, not an intellect, but love is done through the heart. That's what Baba said, not through the intellect. So only left is emotional part of the mind. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, yes, Meru, you would like to say something?
Meru, you have to unmute, please.
I would like to add to what Ram said. So far, we are talking about our side of the unconditional love. But the best example we get is from our pets, especially the dogs. They give you unconditional love. You can hammer them, you can yell at them. You may forget to feed them at times, but they still come to you and they love you. I suppose that is the best example one can give for unconditional love.
So would that make dogs more evolved than human beings?
I would say yes, maybe, where love is concerned. Dog spelled the other way is God.
But unfortunately, dogs are still spelled the other way. And
Well,
human beings are supposed to be, so Baba tells us, at the top of the chain of consciousness, evolution. Dogs are not yet up there. So how do we start making sense of all this? What is really unconditional love?
follow the dogs.
Is
Follow
it
the
so
example to love humans as they do, no matter what happens.
Okay.
I think if we keep loving, Baba himself will guide us in the right direction.
Yes, trust Baba.
There's no doubt he will. And if you're willing to go with that, then we don't need to intellectualize it or analyze it or understand it any further.
Yeah. I think it's loving without any expectations.
Is it as simple as that?
I just made it simple. It may not be.
Because even parents have a lot of expectations of their children.
Yeah, but they see that, as I said, parents they expect you to do well, but they get over the disappointment very quickly.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm sure,
Some may get over it quickly, some may get over it slowly.
Yeah.
They may not show it.
Yeah.
Depends upon the age to age. Depends upon the age to age.
Yes, not only that.
When the children are very, very small.
But what about when you grow a little older
The
and your
parents have a lot of expectation.
Your parents expect you to marry into your same caste, same religion, same community. And you don't.
It is some type of the protection type.
But yeah, maybe so, but is that
protection
conditional?
Of the children.
Is that unconditional love?
But
no,
isn't
it's not
unconditional love
it is the emotional part.
Yes, it is emotional. So can we say that we really don't know what is unconditional love?
Jimmy, getting married in your community is a social binding.
And therefore an expectation.
Yeah.
And if you have that expectation in your love for your child, it's conditional, it's not unconditional love.
But it against the protection of the children also, that response to the protection of the children.
According to you, the child or the grown-up young adult may not need protection, but you feel he needs protection. And you want him to marry into your kith and kin, your jat, and he doesn't. But it's still a condition on your part. You don't have unconditional love towards him. This is still conditioned.
But we are restricting the unconditional love just between, we are making it so personal to a mother and a child. I mean, when Baba talks about unconditional love, I think he means that to see everybody with that same eye, the same oneness, because we become conditioned when we see others. Maybe with our own family, we can be unconditional, but we are not like that with everybody.
So what separates us from oneness? It's our conditions.
Yeah.
What separates us from oneness? It's our conditions. Remove all the conditions and we have unconditional love. Or is it the same thing as saying we have oneness? All within us that makes us think of ourselves as different from anyone else. All that is surrendered. And we become one with Baba.
Because when we come to Baba fold, when we come to Mehrabad, or when we are in Baba gathering, at that time, at that moment, we go into the zone of unconditional. I mean, at that time, we do not care who is there, who is big, who is small, what caste, we forget everything. When we come in the master's zone, we don't care who is next to us, but the moment we are away from there, the mind starts working. When we are the masters, the mind just completely goes blank, because we are just so much in his zone, in his aura, that we don't see ourselves. But the moment we come out of there, my I, my me, my all those things start. So we have moments of unconditional love, but it's only like in moments, not forever, 24/7.
Very interesting observation, Raksha. Anyone
Jimmy,
would like?
Meher wants to say something. Meher and Sam.
I would say it is our ego that stops us from unconditional love.
Okay.
We tend to feel maybe superior to somebody or whatever reason.
Yeah. So the ego comes from the mind, na?
Yeah. That
When we
blocks
put,
you from your
yeah,
unconditional
when we
love.
put our mind to function, when you put our mind, that's when the ego comes in, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the
Jimmy,
ego that creates separations and differences. Yes.
Yeah.
Jimmy, I would this thing. What Raksha says is we have to just focus on one thing. Like when we come to Mehrabad, anybody will focus on the samadhi, and the
Yes.
love what we are getting there. Because when once we come back from there, everything is different. Very
Okay.
often.
Okay.
The love is very important. What we get there.
Okay, Meher. How about Sam? You had something to say, Sam?
Yes, Jimmy, as far as I'm concerned, the only place where you can receive unconditional love is from Him. Every other love is conditional.
Correct.
Any other human being or anything, regardless of whatever the status may be, there is that certain percentage of selfishness. It is only He and He alone who can give you that unconditional love. That's what I feel.
Okay, good. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
So, Kathy, in answer to your original question, the answers that seem to have come forward is that when you're in samadhi, when you're in the master zone, that's the moment when some people claim they have felt, experienced oneness, unconditional love. How does that gel with you, Kathy?
Oh yeah, that sounds great. I was really happy to hear that and remember that. I mean, I do have that feeling when I go to the Samadhi, when I go to the Mayor Baba Center in Myrtle Beach. Really, everything is wonderful, and everyone who I run into, I'm happy to see them, or I care about them. And it is true that it does change when I leave, but I do like that. I mean, I mean, I'm glad to remember all those times of unconditional love. And what I guess Sam said about the only one who gives unconditional love is Baba. It's just, I remember a quote that Mara Baba said that I am the only one who will never disappoint you. Something like that related to relationships or interactions with people.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Jimmy, can I add something?
Yes.
It reminds me of the post that Avatar Meher Baba Bombay Center put today on Facebook. It was about some Westerner whom Baba instructed to bring 3 lepers to him, and that man said that I do not, I'll bring them to you, but I don't want to touch them. And Baba told him that the moment the whole story went like that, I think Uncle Sam will know about it. Like when you start seeing, when you don't start seeing them as lepers, but you start seeing me in all of them, and but the man's ego kept coming in between, said they're lepers, Baba, even you should not touch them, Baba, they're contagious, Baba, even you should not touch them. And Baba told him, when I start my seva, you look. And actually I forgot the Westerner guy's name, and he said when Baba was in the seva, I saw the lepers, and I didn't see lepers, but I saw Baba in them. And he goes, I blinked my eyes again, I blinked again, and they were not lepers. So, I mean, I think that's what it means when you start seeing your master in everybody, like how Baba was saying, when you start seeing him in every and each person, that's when I think the ego will vanish and that unconditional love will come in.
Yeah, because as Baba would always say, you and I are not we, but are one. Right? So yes, thank you, Raksha. That's a nice story.
It was today it was posted on Facebook from the Meher Baba Bombay Center.
Great. Would anyone like to say something more on this subject? Oh, there are the monkeys. Yes, anyone would like to say something more? No hands up?
Yeah, Jimmy, it's Meherjyoti here.
Haji.
what I am thinking about it, that whenever you remember Baba wholeheartedly,
Yes.
it's not the question where are you, or whether you are in around the samadhi or the Baba zone or like that. So it become again the unconditional love when when you remember Baba wholeheartedly, when there no ego is there, it's only love, pure love is that. It's the mixture of the emotion, it's a mixture of the divinity, it's a mixture of the superiority, or whatever you believe Baba in
Okay.
that situation, in that relation. So what I experience, or the what I can say, that the you can miss during this lockdown period, I had a lot of this the feeling, or the lot of this one Baba's presence in everywhere. It's not at the samadhi. Samadhi is the greatest place, that is no doubt is there, but we can feel him all this, the Baba's program, virtual Baba's program also. So when you remember Baba wholeheartedly, that is the unconditional love. And when we are saying this, the samadhis or the Baba's place and this and that and all these things, Baba's auras are there. No doubt its aura is there, and Baba's this one. But the when this the Baba has very what we can say, the compassionately care you, love you. That's the most important. That's the most unconditional love is there.
Okay. Everyone happy with that? Yes. And what if Baba cares for you and loves you?
It's not the care in my as per my understanding. It's not the caring. It's the showing you the directions of the directions, or the whatever he plans for, whatever it's his plan. It's plan for the us, plan for the anything, whether it's the good or bad. It's we are not considered. Means I am not thinking about
Agreed,
that.
Meher
Whether
Joshi,
it's
but sometimes we don't understand Baba, do we? And we think that he's forgotten us. So we have an expectation of him.
though when we are saying that the Baba and we are separate, then we have this expectation. But when we has that's the thing, that the whatever he is doing, it's perfectly okay, then we should surrender for everything. Then there is no expectation has come, whether it's good or bad, or whether it's a worst or the very happy moments. Then I think it
Okay.
again this the
Okay, Meher, you were in line wanting to ask something.
Yeah. I'll tell you the truth, Jimmy. There are
Yeah.
different types of love everybody can give. There are different feelings, even in love, because Ananda has spoken a lot to Ananda about these things. And with like, because he's a Baba lover also.
Who, Ananda?
After Jai Singh,
Ah, acha.
Ananda. Telling him also. And a lot of things what I've been having, what's happening in my life just now with this thing. So there are a lot of ways I can say. Sometimes you can get depressed with the love you're getting, and sometimes you cannot be. That's also there. That's
Okay.
my one thing.
Okay, Sam, you had something to say?
Yes, Jimmy. All I'd like to say is we can sit down here and keep theorizing about love till kingdom come. It's not something which can be described. It's not something which can be written down upon. It cannot be discussed. It's a matter of feeling, it's a matter of heart. And unless you experience it, it, you can spend days on end talking about it. It's not going to get us anywhere. That is what I feel.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jimmy, what
Hi,
is
Jimmy.
your
This
opinion
is
about
Ram.
Yes, Ram.
I'm going to read a couple of lines. This is unconditional love. From the book, The Ancient One, on page 180 and 181.
Yeah.
So he says, the pure love of a lover of the beloved is like the flame of a candle.
Okay.
When the lover becomes like the wick of the candle, the beloved behaves as the wax, and the grace of the beloved then functions as the agency that sets the wick aflame.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Ram, can you read please again? Can you read it please?
So the pure love of a lover of the beloved is like the flame of a candle. When the lover becomes like the wick of the candle, the beloved behaves as the wax, and the grace of the beloved then functions as the agency that sets the wick aflame.
Thank you. Jai Baba.
Yeah, Rakesh, you were saying something?
what is your opinion about divine love, unconditional love?
Whose opinion?
Yours.
Mine.
Yes.
Marere. For me, it's really about totally surrendering, giving up all that you think you are, totally surrendering everything, to be one with Meher Baba, or to be one with God, or to be one with anybody and everybody, anything and everything. That requires a relinquishment of all that you see, know, think, feel that you are. I am not Jimmy Modi. I cannot see myself as Jimmy Modi. But when I look around and I see trees, birds, bumblebees, squirrels, and people, beggars on the street, as well as Mercedes Benzes, I am all of it. Not in an egotistic way, but in a way that says that I have relinquished all that I am, to be one and connected with that which is in everyone. That's how I would try to see it.
So basically, it's love is like when there's oneness, so you're just loving yourself itself. You don't, then there's nothing that, I mean, is somebody else loving you or you receive from Baba or anybody else, because it's just oneness. It's just beyond everything then.
So we go from a position of giving and receiving love to a position of being love. So that means we go through the various levels of consciousness, from gross, subtle to mental. And in each of these levels of consciousness defines love in its own way.
Yeah. The giving and taking just disappears. So there's no
Giving and taking
nothing.
disappears.
Yeah, the
There's no such thing as giving or taking.
nothing at all.
Yeah.
In fact, I have started thinking even the love, the word, it disappears because there's nothing as that also then.
The word love is the closest word that can explain to us the kind of forces that are involved. Because love is unique. It has no limits. It has no beginning, no end. When it has a beginning and end in our minds, it is conditional.
Fantastic.
So then divine love becomes divine love. There's no, we don't label it as receiving and giving also.
Right.
Right.
It's just love,
It's it.
divine.
Yes. There's no giving and receiving of oneness.
Jimmy,
Yeah.
Mehajyoti here.
हाँ बोलो. Hello.
Baba's message is that things that given and received in hello,
Yes.
hello,
Yes, speak up,
am I
Manjyoti.
audible?
Yes, yes, speak up.
That Baba's message is there. That things that received given in silence.
Things that are real are given and received in silence.
Received in silence. Yeah.
Yes. Which is
So
another
it
way of
is
saying there's no giving or receiving. There's
again
no
this the
thank you. There's no please. There's no take this or give me that. I love you. Please love me. None of that. It's all silence. It's just oneness. Love is. It's a state of being. It's a state of existence. It's a state of oneness. And the love that we know are the little limited forces that drive us up the path, up the hill, towards achieving unconditional love or oneness with Meher Baba.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes?
Yes, thank you.
Are we good on this? Anyone like to say anything, ask anything, share anything? Any experiences of oneness? Then we shall go to the next chapter. Prayer as inner approach, page 72. For most persons, the outer ceremonies and rituals prevalent in the diverse religions are the established approach to God and divinity. This is for most persons. They are regarded as indispensable. However, they are neither essential nor necessary. They are neither essential nor necessary. Though at times they have been allowed or given by masters by way of inevitable accommodation to human weakness. I pray because I need something, I want something. They may also be practiced with benefit when they are thus allowed or given by a master, but only during the period for which they have been prescribed, and in the context in which they are intended to be given effect. They have no lasting value, nor can they be made eternally binding. They were never essential or indispensable. They are never essential or indispensable, and they never will be essential or indispensable. Well, here Baba says it very clearly. Prayers are not essential and indispensable. Let us take, for example, the stern discipline and fasts associated with Ramadan. No doubt they serve some spiritual purpose. But one way of looking upon it is to regard them as a sort of compulsory rationing of food and water in those areas where they were rare and where such control was necessary in the interest of society. That is one way of looking at it. It is not necessary to convert the instructions of the Prophet into inflexible, rigid, and eternal rules of discipline. In the context in which they were given, they served both material and spiritual purposes. They served those material and spiritual purposes only in the context in which they were given. They cannot be regarded as inescapable or necessary in all times and climes. The same thing applies to any other disciplines given by other seers or other masters. Would anyone like to make a comment, ask a question, say something? No? Well, maybe I have something to share over here. You know, being a true-blooded redneck Parsi, when I read discourses, there's a chapter on moksha, on being silent. And I said to myself, oh yeah, I can be silent. And I would always think if I went to Vipassana, being silent is not a big deal for me. But then I read a chapter in discourses, maybe the next one after that, which talked about fasting. I said, hey, wait a minute. We Parsis, we cannot fast. We cannot go without our eggs and without our dansak and without our curries. I cannot fast. I could never fast. And what idea of fasting came into my mind at that time was exactly what we just read over here. Okay? As a ritual, as a practice prescribed by religion or priests or masters. Okay? And I could never accept fasting as a rule or a practice or a religious practice or a practice to purify me as some people feel it does. No. But then I read something later somewhere, either in discourses or somewhere else. No, in fact, I would always skip that chapter on fasting in discourses and read the rest of the book. And this happened several times for several years. And once I said to myself, come on, Jimmy, you've got time. Why don't you read this poor little bleeding chapter on fasting in the book Discourses? So I read it. And lo and behold, I read something quite different from my understanding of fasting. And I realized how important fasting suddenly became to me from the way Baba explained it to me. He explained it to me as a discipline that would help me to grow less attached to the foods that I desire, to the lusting for foods that I desire. And I remember examples of Erach and other Mandali members talking about how in Mirazad, Baba would make them eat dal and rice every single day for months on end. That was a kind of fasting too. It was a kind of depriving yourself from your desires, leading yourself away from your desires, taking your desires out of your mind, and instead replacing it with unconditional love. So I then decided to focus on this understanding, this idea of fasting, by becoming aware of my attachment for food, my lust for food, and practicing a fasting that helped me to acquire that discipline. And the way Baba explained fasting was a way I'd never seen fasting explained anywhere else before by anyone. And I thank Meher Baba for that. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. Would anyone like to say anything more on this?
Yeah, food is not the problem, Jimmy. It's the damn scotch, you know. So that's the problem for me. I can stay away from food, you know. I mean, anything that's given, that's okay, you know. But in the evening, I need to have that little. So I need to detach myself, I guess.
You don't need it. It's only your mind that convinces you that you need it.
Yeah.
You really don't need it. And the good thing about growing old is your desires also wither and grow old. So it
Yeah, I
becomes
don't have.
easier not to desire things.
I don't know about the desire. At least the metabolism will make sure that you don't desire for it. So as you grow old.
Yeah, so let's see if you can go without a scotch this evening.
I'll let you know tomorrow.
Okay, good. Does anyone else would like to share anything?
Meru.
I mean,
I think,
it's basically mind over matter. So if you make up your mind, you can control the matter.
I would like to say it is mind over all that doesn't matter really.
Yeah, okay, but then food is matter again.
But the lust for food doesn't
Fine.
matter. You need food. Can you eat to live or do you live to eat?
I used to live to eat, now I eat to live.
Okay, so that's the difference.
So I suppose that's age talking now.
I don't know about that. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
Yeah, Rakesh was saying something, so what is it you were saying, Rakesh?
No, nothing. I was just saying that Ram is taking double advantage of spirits. That's it.
But you should ask yourself, what is it about scotch that you like? Do you like that it makes you high? Or do you really honestly like the flavor of it?
No, I see at this age, I don't drink to get drunk, to get high. It somehow relaxes my body. I just
That's
have
the
one
same
shot.
thing. That's the same thing.
Just it's
Relaxes
not
my
like,
body is
yeah.
is a slight beginning of getting high, which enables your body to relax.
Yeah.
Now I remember for years and years I would go to many parties in my slightly younger days, and every party it was the same thing. Scotch and water, Jimmy, with ice. Yes. I was expected to have this one drink everywhere I went. And I'm thinking to myself, why? So once at a party, I said, no thanks, can I have some orange juice? And he almost fell out of his pants. I said, what, orange juice? Are you all right? Are you sick? I said, no, because actually I enjoy the taste of orange juice better than scotch. I mean, drinking scotch every day, I've gone fed up of drinking scotch. But something different. Glass of wine, orange juice, nimbu pani. What am I drinking for? Because everyone's drinking? Because I'm expected to drink? Because I want to relax? Or because I simply enjoy the flavor of it? Do I really enjoy the flavor of it anymore? No, I don't. So then I stopped. QED.
Wow. I think I should follow the same, so, I over the period of time, it's been reducing anyway. So
Good.
eventually it will go away.
Eventually it won't go away on its own. Nothing goes away on its own.
I'll make an effort. So.
Okay, guys, it's 7:30. So thank you, everyone. Love you, everyone.
Love you.
Avtar Meher Baba
Meher
ki
Baba
jai.
ki jai.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. Avtar Meher
Meher
Baba
Baba
ki
ki
jai.
jai.
Thank you, Baba,
Avtar
for
Meher Baba
everything.
ki jai.